It's me, Jessica, at the Pointe Norcross, in Norcross, Georgia. I'm here to discuss healthy eating with you all. I'll put my charger in so this doesn't die on us. I hope you guys enjoyed our conversation last week. It was very informative. And today we're just going to talk a little bit more about healthy eating in a different light. So I hope everybody's enjoying their Tuesday and that everybody enjoyed their Labor Day, had the day off, God willing. Um, so let's jump right into it. So as you can see in the title, this today's program is called Healthy Eats. And so I'm going to talk about 8 tips on how to eat healthier. Now, as you guys know, I intentionally have been working on my lifestyle modifications with foods, cutting out processed foods. Personally, my husband and I have decided, I don't know what just happened. Anyway, it asked me to end the video, but we just got started. So my husband and I decided to cut out meat from our diet. Definitely decrease on my dairy intake. Exercising. I try to get exercise in about 3, 4 times a week. Um, at least 30 minutes of 3 days is recommended from the American Association for Family Practice, and cardiology, I believe. Cardiologist, or the American Heart Association. So that's 30 minutes at least 3 times a day, to help with, healthy lifestyle changes. So my challenge for myself has been to work out, and everything I've been saying here, through TI communities, I'm actually practicing in real life. So cutting out my processed foods, adhering to these the food modifications that I discuss in our episodes in our virtual programs. And so I actually have been losing some weight. I'm very excited about that. So I'm hoping that, after COVID, we can kind of compare notes on how we can keep ourselves accountable, for living a healthier lifestyle. And for me, these conversations are my level of accountability. So today, in our discussion about healthy eats, our 8 subject topics are going to be fairly simple, but I'm going to encourage you all to implement these in your life as I have. It definitely is a mental change, not so much just like cutting things out. That's not how you should view it. It should be a positive event for you. It should be a positive transition to a healthy lifestyle of eating. So these practical tips are things that can help you. I have my notes, so you guys know. um, these really is just to, in terms of calorie intake, I'm not counting calories. And I just wanted to do a disclaimer before we jump into it. But it's important to keep watch of what you're taking in and making sure that what you're putting out matches that. And when I say put out, I mean in terms of the energy. So what you're consuming, you want to have a balance regarding the energy you consume with the energy you put out. So if I'm going to eat, a bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich, I'm going to be working out enough to burn those type of calories. So I'm not going to eat something that's high calorie intake and I'm doing low calorie burning workouts. Does that make sense? So finding that healthy balance is really crucial. So I wanted to say that before we started. And I also wanted to mention that men are recommended to have about 2,500 calories a day, and women are recommended to have about 2,000 calories a day. So that's just to keep in mind. Now, when you go to your fast food stores, you'll notice that like a burger can easily be like 500 calories. Now, you could think if I'm a woman and I want to do 200 calories in a day and I just used up 500 calories on this burger, I've only got, 1,500. So that's where that whole counting calories comes out. But rather than just looking at calories, you want to, like I said, keep in mind the balance between what the energy you're taking in and the energy you're putting out. Okay? So let's jump into it now, for real this time. um, so, number one, base your meals on higher fiber starches, or starchy carbohydrates. So starchy carbohydrates should make up just over 1/3 of the foods that you eat. And when I say starchy carbohydrates, I'm referencing potatoes, bread, rice, pastas, and cereal. So when you're doing those things, you want to consider things that are high fiber with those starches. So for example, pasta is high starch, but you want to lean towards the fiber high starches. So whole grain wheat pasta, right? Brown rice, potatoes with the skin on it, so that you're getting the fiber. So if you're going to incorporate 1/3 of your diet to include starchy carbs, at least let there be a lot of fiber in that. So this way you're breaking down food and helps with your GI altogether. So number one is base your meals on a higher fiber form of starchy carbohydrates. Try to include at least one starchy food with each main meal. So if you're gonna have like a protein, like a meat or vegetables, and you want to put like a little side of rice, make it a side of rice. So my family is from an island called Haiti. And there's no such thing as a side of rice. Rice has been like the main course for as long as I've known. I don't know what other cultures do, but Haitians love their rice. And like I've seen plates of rice where the rice is like a legitimate mountain. And then it's like sprinkle some gravy, maybe vegetables, and like a huge piece of meat that's been fried or something on the side. It's horrible. Horrible, horrible, horrible. Well, the food is delicious, don't get me wrong. But the rice content, that ratio is what's horrible. You want to have a side of maybe rice or mashed potatoes. And again, if you're going to do those things, do brown rice instead of the white bleach rice. Potatoes, you can make mashed potatoes, but with the skin on rather than the boxed potatoes, the little flaky stuff. Boil you some regular mashed potatoes, mash it up. You can even put some seasoning, maybe a little bit of garlic flavor in there, garlic oil, and because we discussed, sodium intake in the past. Um, but yeah, those are things to keep in mind for the starchy or the high fiber starchy carbohydrates. Keep an eye on the fats that you add when you're cooking or serving these types of foods because that's what increases the calorie intake. For example, when you're making chips or if you're eating chips, you're thinking, oh, it's a potato. I'm good to go. I could do this. Okay, yeah. But consider the oil used to make the potato chips. So is it deep fried? That's where the calorie comes from too. You're adding more calories to it. So we like to use olive oil from time to time, but when you consider bread on butter and creamy sauces on pastas, that's where you're getting calories on top of the item itself. Like if I'm already having a baked potato, it's got the carbs, right? And it's got the skin, so you're getting the fiber. But when you load it up with sour cream, butter, cheese, bacon, what are you doing? Do you have to really like figure out a balance with that? Number two, eat lots of fruits and veggies. It's recommended that you at least eat 5 portions of a variety of fruit and veggie every day. They can be fresh, frozen, canned, dried, or juiced. Um, that is, if you're transitioning, they give you that flexibility. But as we've discussed in previous virtual conversations like this, you do want to stay away from processed foods because things that are processed do, in the long run, contribute to a lot of cardiovascular health issues. You've got a lot of chemicals and some things, these preservatives, to make food last long and create longer shelf lives so that by the time you get these items, they're still good enough to eat. But the bad side about that is that, when you're adding these preservatives, it's not natural for our bodies. And so there is a correlation between cardiovascular health. So if you are going to do frozen fruits, what we do is we get organic fruits and we chop them up and put them in Ziploc bags and freeze them so that when we're ready to use it for smoothies, then we're good for that in terms of smoothies. Um, so we don't really buy the frozen fruits, because I believe that they do add a preservative to maintain the fruits, um, and even canned stuff. So vegetables, we've kind of stayed away from frozen vegetables. We just will buy our vegetables and then like if anything, we'll freeze it ourselves if we are not using it right away. It's using fruits and vegetables for midday snack is always optimal. Um, a portion of fresh canned or frozen fruit and vegetables is about 80 grams. I don't know how to measure that. Just consider like a good size, like a good portion size. Um, Nothing bigger than your fist. Essentially, your stomach is the size of like your hand. Not your stomach, like your abdomen, but like the actual organ that your stomach is, like where your food goes before it goes to your intestines, is not that big. So it stretches. And that's why when you feel full, you gotta unbuckle your pants. You're like, can't breathe because your stomach is pushing on your lungs from underneath, anatomically speaking. And that's why when we feel full, it's because the stomach is so distended. But if your stomach it can only carry about this much food, then just eat this much food. It doesn't need to stretch. That's just a way of it compensating. So that's where portion control comes into place. I'm jumping ahead of myself. um, if you're going to do a fruit juice, consider a fruit juice that's 100% juice. So no added preservatives, no chemicals, artificial flavors. Those are things that you have to watch out for. We started looking at the juice boxes for my son. He's 3 years old. And now we actually do our part to make sure that the juice boxes we give him are 100% juice and not artificial flavoring. And if we're going to have juice, we try to make it ourselves, hence the smoothies. So we're really doing our part. I'm telling you, honestly, since starting these conversations, my husband and I, this house, we have definitely changed our eating habits and we're seeing a difference. And that's important. So number 3, eat more fish instead of a portion of oily fish. So if you're gonna do fish, salmon, trout, herring, sardines, mackerel, these are oily fish, and they contain omega-3 fats, which helps prevent heart disease. So those are fish like salmon, trout, herring, sardines. I've never had pilchards. That's Pilchards. But mackerel too. I don't think I've ever had that. Now these you can find at your local fish market. So I like to go straight to a fish market where you see the fish. I don't like when it's pre-packaged and bagged because I don't know how long it's been there. And those are things to consider because those are the ones that tend to be preserved. So just keep that in mind with fish. Try to bake it, not fry it. Broiling it is good, grilling is good, but that deep fried breading, that's where you kind of get into the more calories thing, even though we're not counting calories. But if you're going to eat fried fish and, expect to work out to like output that same type of energy. Non-oily fish are okay to have as well, but the oily fish is just high in omega fats, and that's where it's more beneficial. But if you did want to do a non-oily fish, there's haddock, cod, tuna, hake. Um, don't they say to choose from fresh, frozen, and canned, but remember that canned and smoked fish can be high in salt. So that's something to keep in mind. If you're going to do a canned fish, it's high in salt because of that high the preservatives. The salt is there for that reason. And so just be, cognizant of that. 4, cut down on saturated fat and sugar. So I'm just going to read a little bit about saturated fat. You need some fat in your diet. That is important. But it's important to pay attention to the amount and type of fat you're eating. There are 2 main types of fat. There's saturated and unsaturated. Too much saturated fat can increase the amount of cholesterol in the blood. So saturated fat can saturate your blood with cholesterol, which increases your risk for heart disease. We always talk about heart disease here. An average man should have no more than 30 grams of saturated fat a day, and a woman should have no more than 20 grams of fat. But again, if you're going to do the fat or the fat and calorie counting, just know that if you're going to eat something that's high in fat, try to work out a little bit more that day just to kind of balance out the energy going in and out. Children under 11 should have less saturated fats than adults. And when I say saturated fats, I'm referring to foods like fatty cuts of meat. So, when people go to Popeyes and they like that skin and it's crunchy, That's not the best fat, right? And this is the best thing to eat. Um, I'm guilty of this for turkey, Thanksgiving. Oh, I love the skin. It's so good. And there's that fat underneath it. That's like where all the flavor is. But it's not healthy. So I had to cut that out a long time ago. Sausages. Oh, I love turkey sausage. And that cutting that out has been the hardest thing for me. Um, but that's something that's considered saturated fats. And then you can think there's also preservatives in that too. They'll put bread in there. They put all kind of stuff in sausage to keep it, full and let it last long. And so that's where you run into those issues. Butter, hard cheese. These are like, oh my God, I'm dying a slow death here. I love butter. I love hard cheese. I mean, who doesn't? Cream, cakes, golly. I don't use lards, and I'm not a person who likes pies. But these are things that hold a lot of saturated fats, so I've actually cut back on almost all of these. Sausages, we cut the meat out. Butter, I actually am using vegan butter now, Earth Balance. Cheese, I've stopped cheese for now. That's gonna be the hardest. I don't do, oh, I do cream in my coffee, but I do almond milk cream, so I don't know if it's a difference. Yeah, so cutting down on saturated fats is definitely a healthier choice. Um, you can use a little amount of vegetable oil or olive oil instead of butter. Um, and when you're having meat, choose lean meats and cut off any visible fat. So rather than deep frying that fat, you want to take it off, bake it, if anything. Anyway, those are things to consider. Sugar. Regular consuming foods and drinks high in sugar increases your risk of obesity and tooth decay. Obesity leads to a lot of things. Like that's like a whole separate conversation. But the main things that come to mind are diabetes. And the thing about diabetes is that it's reversible in some incidences. Well, specifically type 2 is reversible um, with weight loss. And that's amazing because the ramifications and the issues that come along with diabetes are so grave that if you can reverse it, it's literally life saving. Same thing with cardiovascular health. A lot of cardiovascular issues can be reduced, if not eliminated, with weight loss, so hypertension. And in terms of pulmonary issues, you have COPD, I'm not COPD, sleep apnea. There's just so many, like, it's almost like a cascade or domino effect of issues. Like once you're obese and your heart doesn't work or your sugar levels are bad, it's like next thing goes, and it just kidney, liver, peripheral nerves, everything. And so if you can just lose weight and eliminate all of that, that's amazing. So consider that with sugar. So removing sodas, we cut out the sugary fuzzy drinks, sugary breakfast cereals. I'm working on that. I'm working on cutting back on cereals. My issue is that I have celiac disease, so I can't eat gluten. And so having cutting out gluten, wheat, excuse me, gluten, which is wheat, meat and dairy has been very difficult. I'm learning to transition to a different type of lifestyle. So my breakfast items are very limited. So as I'm figuring out what's best for me, I no, I want to cut out cereal because cereal is very processed. I mean, you can tell when something's processed because if it from the farm to table, if they don't look alike, there's been a process involved, right? So what's in a Cheerio, right? Nothing grows out of the ground looking like a Cheerio or like a Rice Krispie treat. Or, so there's been some type of a process to reform the corn or wheat or whatever you eat into a cereal and you add flavor and artificial. So it's very processed. So I'm trying to work on getting rid of the sugars from the cereal. That's my cross to bear. I'm getting there. Pastries, puddings, sweets, alcoholic drinks also have a level of sugar to consider. Reading food labels helps, and if you can avoid sweeteners, sometimes that can help too. So even though I'm recommending this, I too am on this journey with you, so we can struggle together. And it's baby steps, as I mentioned last week. It's not supposed to be something hard. It's not supposed to be about restrictions. It's about finding new ways to enjoy eating that's healthy. So I'm getting there. I truly am. All right, so 5, we're almost done. Eat less salt. So no more than 6 grams of salt is recommended for a day. Salt has such a huge role in high blood pressure. Has a lot of, oh my gosh, I can go on about salt. Like salt really has really bad indications on our health. The more sodium we incorporate, especially patients who have heart failure. The number one, well, I don't want to say number one, but one of the top things that they're instructed when they have heart failure, excuse me, let me just grab this, heart failure is to decrease their sodium intake. Because the thing about salt is wherever salt goes, water follows. So if I am eating too much salt, then when I drink water, the water that I drink is now going to follow where the salt is. And that's when you see people who have swelling in their legs. They might have swelling in their heart, in their kidney, too much fluid in their kidney, too much salt deposition in their body. And there's just so many things that can happen because of too much salt. So it's important to consider reducing your salt intake. Um, so according to, I believe it's the FDA, don't quote me on that, about 3/4 of salt you eat is already in the food that you buy. So adding salt to a lot of the foods that you eat is not even really, it's not healthy. It's already got salt in it because it's got the preservatives, right? So buying things that are not processed can help decrease sodium. And if you do buy something processed to cook, don't add salt. It's already got salt. Like consider ramen noodles. Ooh, I don't know if I should say that. Noodles, instant noodles. I don't know. Those noodle things have so much sodium to keep it preserved and hard like that, right? And then when we cook it, we add that salt packet that's got more salt. And if you want to get fancy, you add your own little, special whatever to it. Like when I used to eat that stuff, I'd add sausage in there, peppers, onions. Like I make it a whole thing, right? So just consider that when you're making these foods and cooking. Number 6, get active and be a healthy weight. So, on top of just eating right, my thing is I want to get my weight within my BMI, which is your body mass index. It's a calculation of or a ratio of your height to your weight and where you fall on this graph called the BMI index. And the normal numbers that you need to be is between 18 and 26. Over the number 26, you end up being classified as overweight. And then after that, there's obese, and then there's morbid obesity, right? I want to be at a place where my height and weight ratio falls between 18 and 26 or 25. Um, that is important, right? Because the healthier you are, as we mentioned about obesity, you decrease the chances of you getting hypertension, hypercholesterolism or cholesterolemia, um, of diabetes, of arthritis, early onset arthritis, because you've got so much weight on your joints for all these years, you're gonna end up, jacking up the joint space. So that's something to consider. If you want to lose weight, that's something you can consider, like to relieve the pain on your joints as you age. There's just so many other things that benefits of staying active. So as I mentioned earlier on, is what's recommended by the American Heart Association and the American Association for Family Physicians is that you do at least a minimum of 3 days, 30-minute each workout. So whether that's going for a walk, doing some jumping jacks. With COVID, a lot of people have been turning to YouTube and watching workout videos from their home and working out at home. So, if you can't make it to the gym, you can find something online. And also, the thing about being online is that if you don't like the workout, you can change it. There are low impact exercises like the ones I've done here on TI communities. So if you have issues with joints already, it won't stop you from doing other workouts. Um, so that's something to consider. So Number seven, and then eight, and then we're gonna head out. Seven is do not get thirsty. So you need to drink plenty of fluids to stop you from getting dehydrated. My problem is I never drink enough. Well, I don't want to say never. I'm trying to drink a lot more water. I do drink a lot of water, but days that I'm at the hospital, working or doing, like, I never have time to get a break for water. And then on those days, I'll feel crampy. I don't feel clear, but then the days that I'm not working, I'm like a fish in water. I drink water all the time. So consider drinking water, avoiding sugars from drinks like juice. Smoothies is good. I don't like to add sugar to my smoothies. I like to add coconut water because then you're getting natural electrolytes. Um, and then unsweetened fruit juices. Remember to just drink more water on hot days. Avoid like the sodas and the sugary drinks. Kool-Aid, like, come on, guys. We gotta stop that. No Kool-Aid. Anyway, no judging though, but like, what is Kool-Aid? Like, truly, what is it? It's not a fruit. Like, what is it? It's a chemical. Anyway, the last one is do not skip breakfast. People do not they take for granted the power of breakfast. It's important to, if you're going to have a meal, have a breakfast so your body has actual fuel to burn for the rest of the day. This way you work out in the morning, you eat something, and you're moving throughout the day, and that gives you energy, right? So some people skip breakfast because they think it'll help them lose weight. That's not the case. If you're going to have breakfast, consider high fiber meals, low in fat, sugar, and salt, and can form part of a balanced diet. Try whole grain options, so oatmeals are a really good substitute with fruits in there. And we like to use almond milk rather than skim milk, but if you wanted to do a milk, trying to do skim milk might be an option when you're eating your cereals. Fruits, applesauce, like homemade applesauce. Anyway, so those are the 8 tips that I have for you today regarding healthy eats. And if have questions, please try to find a way to reach out to me. I am actually here at Norcross in Georgia at the Pointe. And so I'm personally trying to live by this. And so for those of you watching from Norcross, sometimes I'll walk up and down that one steep hill trying to get my exercise in. Truly, you guys have motivated me to like practice what I'm preaching. And because of that, I'm so grateful. So thank you again for your time today. I hope that you learned something new and that you can share, and also to just live a healthy life, especially right now with COVID. One of the preventatives for COVID is being healthy by increasing your immunity. And the only way to really build a healthy immunity is to be healthy. So working out, decreasing sugar, salts, and fats, and still having fun with it. Like, I've been making recipes I've never thought I'd ever make in my life, and they've been delicious. My family loves it, and they're hearty and healthy. So I will see you guys on Thursday. We're going to talk about how to get your children to eat more veggies. And that is a struggle. And that's why I'm doing this, because I'm experiencing that as we speak with my 3-year-old boy. So that should be fun. I hope to see you guys on Thursday at 6:30, okay? Have a good night.